everyone, and welcome to another Watchman, What of the Night. This is the third edition, and today we're going to have another interesting topic, another hot topic, which is going around the world right now. A lot of people are worried, what is this all about? And with me, as always, I have my very good friend, Mark Chambers. Welcome, Mark, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Michael. It's certainly a great pleasure to be with you in Watchman What of the Night, and looking forward to today's topic.
Yeah, and we're gonna cover this about CBDC. Probably a lot of people doesn't know what is central bank digital currency. That's something which is quite new for a lot of people. We're going to dive into this today, and we're going to cover some of the aspects that not only us but a lot of people with much better background and expertise, they know about this. So central bank digital currency, well, quite known person said recently, if you can move all people into a digital concentration camp, empty their bank account at any time, and tell them what they can and they can't spend money on, you are in complete control. That's Catherine Austin Fries. Does this sound like out of a 1984 kind of a Orwellian mindset book, or is this reality? Let's listen to what she actually has to say.
A central bank explained that with CBDC as a replacement or a digital currency, they can make the rules of how the currency is used, and they can enforce the rules centrally. Let that sit in centrally. So one great activist said that the implementation of the passports is the end of human liberty in the West, and that is in fact true if we let this control grid go in. Robert F. Kennedy says you can't stop tyranny by complying. And so what I ask you, we cannot comply with the mandates. We cannot comply with the passports. We cannot comply with any part of a financial control grid, whether they change the name from passports and do it with biometrics and ID, whichever way they do it. So this is the fight for freedom and liberty. And what I will tell you again as an investment advisor, most of our wealth in the West comes from the benefits of freedom. And when you give away freedom, you give away anything. When the World Economic Forum says it's 2030 and you have no assets and you're happy, what I hear is it's 2030, we have stripped you of your assets, which may include stripping you of your children, and you're mind controlled. Ladies and gentlemen, don't let that happen.
Wow, if you have no freedom, you've got nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, don't let that happen. Well, Mark, imagine that you're about to buy food for your family. You're trying to pay with your credit card, but your credit card is being declined. And you're trying again. And the staff assures you that, the credit card system is working well. You know that there is money on your account. So you're starting to ask questions. What's going on? And suddenly you realize that your government has decided your credit score actually went kind of low. You're no longer eligible to buy the things in your basket. Maybe because you bought too much meat this month. Maybe your carbon footprint actually went to a level where they had to shut down your account. Maybe, I don't know, you made a comment on your Facebook profile, or maybe you uploaded a video to YouTube, and because you've been monitored, the government thought that this is not the kind of thing a good government approved citizen should say, right? So aside from being embarrassed of having to return all your groceries under the disapproving gaze of customers behind you in the queue, in the line, now you realize that, hey, actually I have nothing to feed my family with. My bank account has been freezed. What am I going to do? Welcome to a world where free will no longer exists. Freedom of expression is forbidden, something that belongs to the past, and human rights are a distant memory. Is that the feeling you get?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's going to be, you're talking about a rude awakening for people who just confide in the powers that be, confide in the government, and think that they're always,
Hmm.
uh, altruistic, looking for our good. That's a rude awakening. I mean, somebody expecting. I mean, how is this being sold? It's convenience.
Yeah.
I decided to go along with this because it's more convenient. It will make my life easier. But is it, and will it? Apparently, no. Definitely no.
Well, a lot of people are raising question marks, and not just question marks, but alarming signs. And we, as the watchmen on the wall, would like to present this to our viewers and everybody else out there which is willing to pay attention. This is not about, you and I kind of creating some conspiracy speculation out of something which maybe the central banks of the world, or maybe the IMF, International Monetary Fund, or G20, or all these other people which are being considered to being the elite. But like all good deceptions, CBDC, central bank digital currency, looks good on the surface, doesn't it? As you just said, a lot of people, they are being deceived into believing that this is going to ease your life. You're going to centralize everything. You don't have to run around with a lot of credit cards to worry about having different bank accounts. You don't have to manage different bank accounts. But we and many other people believe that there is a great evil that lurks just beneath. And now we're going to scratch away the surface that looks good, and let's scratch it and let's see what kind of evil is this
you
evil.
know,
So, yeah, go ahead.
Michael, most people aren't even aware that their central banks are not actually entities of their own government. Most people are not aware that their national, so-called national central bank,
Yeah.
is a part of
Hmm.
a cabal of banks that actually are benefiting that group, not their nation. So if we are unaware of that, how then how immersed are we in deception? You know, it's
And
important that
yeah,
we bring this to the understanding of people, because most
indeed.
people
And
see their,
yeah,
the central bank of Jamaica, the central bank of wherever, but we're
hmm.
talking about a group of a group of companies that are actually managing your national currency, our national currencies, and dictating policies. They have control over inflation, control over the value of the currency, all that. So
Yeah, good
the level
point.
of trust that we put in these systems, uh, understanding who they are, helps us to realize that, wait, they are not really here for our good, not even for the national interests.
Good point, and Mark, and this is something we're going to talk about probably in every single future presentation we're gonna do on different topics, because one of the aspects is that this evil usually is being sold to the great masses, to the population, as being something good. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they either don't have the resources or they do not take the time to understand, to scratch the surface and realize what's actually beneath this. And as you pointed out, the best example is the Fed, the Federal Reserve, United States. People should take the time to look behind who's behind this and what are they actually doing. They are controlling not just the United States, but pretty much a worldwide economy. It's being controlled by this private organization. And now we've moved a step ahead where we reach to a point in time where we believe there is an enormous evil. It's actually coming out of this. And at the end of the day, we believe also from a Christian perspective that it will end there, that will separate the sheep from the goats. This is biblical terminology. It will also clearly show who worships one God or the other God. That's definitely. And if people can't make the connection yet, let's see if there is a connection. We believe there is. As I said, unfortunately, most people will not spend the necessary time investigating this and will most likely, unfortunately, fall for this deception. As we talked, on the surface resembles convenience, efficiency. This is how this is being sold to the population and to us. And we need to understand that these people, as we've been pointing out in the previous presentation programs, are these people there for the good of humanity? We need to ask these questions. What have they done in the past? Look at what the International Monetary Fund has done for many, many years. We're going to cover few of the aspects which are connected to this topic here. Are we going to let the government manage everything about our life? Welfare payments, are we going to let the government to manage the way we pay our bills and so on and so on? So for those of us which are digging a little bit deeper, as Catherine Austin Fries said, we'll find that demanding obedience to this prevailing ideology, controlling what you and I want to buy and sell, where you want to travel, what you want to think, because this is where it comes, as we mentioned from the beginning. If you're uploading a video, if you're posting something which is not in line with the narrative, that's controlling what you think. So is that a goodbye to free will?
For sure. For sure, it's an imposition on the conscience. There is, it's not about you choosing, you making a decision. You're rationalizing and making a response. It's about people or somebody else imposing their will over yours.
Right.
It's a pretty sad situation.
Well,
it's bringing us back to a state where many of our brave heroes in the past were unwilling to live in such a state. They preferred death. Someone says, "Give me liberty or death."
That's also about liberty and free will. This is not an option. The coming CBDC package is not an option for the population. Like cryptocurrency, and a lot of people I know, they already know and they have some idea about cryptocurrency. A lot of people are investing in cryptocurrency. CBDC will use blockchain technology to maintain its integrity and authenticity. However, unlike crypto, which has been designed to be controlled by the people who own the crypto and decide, you can decide for yourself what you want to spend your digital currency, your crypto on. The CBDC, the central bank's digital currency, will be controlled by the government, which will, and they've already told us, and we're gonna listen and we're gonna hear and we're gonna see what they're actually going to say in a few minutes. They will dictate how it will and won't be used. The currency, they say it's programmable and you will not be in control. Cash will be phased out, no longer distributed or accepted by regular providers of goods and services. So, as you probably have already guessed, CBDC will also be tied to user identities and digital IDs, allowing for total state surveillance and eliminating any chance of financial privacy or financial independence. So, CBDC, it's actually coming to a country near you. And if you don't have to believe us, just look what's going on. According to Atlantic Council, the central bank currency tracker, as you can see here on the screen, this is already online. Explorers, it's telling us that 112 countries representing over 95% of global GDP, they are exploring CBDC. And this is the latest. I'm just going here online. Let me just take away this it was translated in Danish, but we want to have it in English. This is online. This is right now. It's telling us a status that 11 countries have already launched CBDC, are the countries with a pink color, and one of them is Nigeria. That's a quite interesting story. Very unsuccessful story, I have to say. We're not going in there. The Nigerians were too smart to buy this because many Nigerians, they work on Bitcoin, which as we have expected, as people expected, Bitcoin brought them quite a good level of financial freedom. So we got 15 countries, the green ones. They have a pilot project right now, including one of the largest countries is Russia and Saudi Arabia. It's actually on a pilot level. The green countries here, or light green countries, as we see, European countries, Canada, are in the development phase. And there are some other countries, including the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Denmark, and England, are on a research phase level here. So, including some Caribbean nations, you can see actually here they're too small. Maybe we can zoom out and we can go to no, okay, it doesn't let me move around, but or maybe it does. No, okay. Some Caribbean countries, yes, there they are, have already implemented, which is the pink one here, pink countries. So going back to you, 14 countries testing these CBDC programs: South Korea, Thailand, Saudi Arabia, Sweden, of course, China. We know that China, the Communist Party in China, is planning to already enforce this by 2023. I believe in January. It's about 1.5 months from now, which are to expand its use to the digital yuan, yes, by 2023. Now, let's listen to some of the people that have been into crypto cryptocurrency for many, many years. Um, and they know what they're talking about. There is this guy, the American entrepreneur, investor, and Bitcoin evangelist. He wrote last March this year, he wrote the following, that central bank digital currency will be one of the greatest violations of human rights in history. Central bank digital currency will remove, he states in the article, will remove the privacy and decentralized nature of physical cash. He explains that it will create an environment where central banks have complete control over every aspect of a citizen's financial life. And then the central bankers will be able to see what's in your bank account, who you're doing business with, what you're buying, anything else they're curious about in your financial life. Mark, we're talking about here control. This is kind of the prevailing aspect in this control. Controlling your financing. As Mark Pompeo is saying here, whatever you do from a financial perspective, how would you be able to even think that you're going to survive in this kind of environment?
So it's the central banks utilizing technology, technology similar to that which we find with the Bitcoin. But while Bitcoin is a currency of freedom, this will not be. It's programmable. At any time they can change the terms or the conditions of use. Even as I was studying last night about the CBDC implementation in Jamaica, the Bank of Jamaica contracted several companies to help them in its implementation, and one of the conditions that they included was termination. They wanted a currency that they would be able to program the conditions and who can use
Yeah.
it, and when and to be able to have the power to terminate the use of that currency.
Yeah.
So
Is this coming out of basically this is national television, Jamaica? I don't know if you got a sound coming from this, but this
no, I
is,
didn't hear it. I didn't hear the sound.
yeah, this is a YouTube link that people can go in, how Jamaica's digital currency will work, right?
Yeah. So we can see how far reaching this is, like, because I mean, it's a small economy Jamaica has, but already they're pushing it. In fact, earlier this year, my brother I was talking with him, and he was telling me that the the Bank of Jamaica is offering incentives for persons to get online, get on board with with CBC currency. They're offering incentive of an account opening.
Hmm.
If you open an account, they will put 2,500 Jamaican dollars there for you to start. So they're pushing this hard.
Well, it's quite interesting that many countries, as we saw from the very beginning, there is this push, there is this agenda, there is this plan to be able to implement this worldwide. Another famous investor, Robert Kiyosaki, he's also the author of the book on personal finance, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, had a sharp criticism of this idea of introducing CBDC, and especially Kiyosaki refers to Executive Order by the Biden administration 14067, which he believes is going to, which was signed by the Biden White House in early March 2022, which set out the administration's position on creating a CBDC as, quote, the most treacherous act in United States history, in a tweet he posted on July 2022, July 17. Now, so far, according to him, Kiyosaki went so far as to declare the establishment of CBDC to be communism is in its purest form. And we know, not just from past, not just from the Soviet Union and other countries, we can see right now what's happening in China, where the communist government is basically more or less controlling the population through not just digital currencies, but through the social credit score. So let's go back to another scenario, Mark. Imagine this scenario, and this is also something you, as our viewers, imagine this. You spoke out against masking children at your school board, your child's school board meeting. You swipe your credit card, the message on the display will be purchase declined. You've exceeded your vehicle weekly miles and exceeded your carbon limit. This is also in the plan, in the agenda. You'll see this later in this program. You're going to see on your display, purchase denied. You posted a private message on Facebook questioning the integrity of the last election. Again, purchase denied. You didn't take this latest mRNA gene therapy booster. Okay, purchase declined. You may be, as we've seen, and we see in China, you defied your lockdown protocol and travel outside your quarantine zone. Again, purchase declined. And the future, according to the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab and the billionaires and bankers who back them, which are telling us you don't want to own anything and you will be happy, or you will own nothing and you'll be happy. All of this, if people still believe that this is some kind of speculative, nightmarish conspiracy, I would yes, theory. Unfortunately, it might come as a big surprise for many people that this is going to be possible because CBDC are programmable. For example, the Chinese digital yuan will be, and it is already possible, and this is in the open, that it can be programmed to be activated on a specific date, programmed to expire on a specific date, programmed to be valid only for certain purchases, and ominously programmed to be available only to citizens who meet certain prerequisites, which means having a good social credit score. This means, and correct me, Mark, how do you see this? Because what I see is that central banks, banks like International Bank of Settlement, banks like IMF, central banks, can have an impact and an influence on yours and mine behavior. Basically, how we are going to live our life, how we're going to express ourselves, our free will, our freedom of speech, everything we do is going to be connected and related to the CBDC.
It's absolute control. This is this should be something that, I mean, we should be terrified of having such a system imposed upon us. 200 years of freedom is going to evaporate under this system. I mean, this is beyond the level, any level of tyranny that we have seen in history. This transcends it, and yeah, it's really
Well,
time to wake up.
definitely. This CBDC will be linked to digital IDs. And we're not saying this. We're going to listen to national bank CEOs, which are going to tell us, which will be associated with also vaccine passports, the so called carbon footprint, and also the social credit system, which is similar to the one which is running already in China. In fact, the whole compulsion surrounding this implementation of vaccine passport, digital IDs, appears to be a kind of a pre-planned springboard for the rollout of central bank digital currency and global social credit system. So we have to realize that this top-down control fits in with also what we discussed previously, the green agenda, the Green New Deal, the climate change agenda, the energy movement, which is designed to produce energy scarcity in a digitally monitored smart grid that connects electricity, gas, and energy consumption to your digital ID, right? That's what we need to realize. Your digital ID will be updated anytime you buy or you consume any kind of energy, because it will also be linked to your carbon footprint. And there where it comes, the CBDC is going to be activated or deactivated according to your consumption, right? Now, Catherine Austin Fries, again, the former Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, said again in a recent interview, all this clean energy is designed to produce an all electrical system, which will allow central banks to build an all digital transaction system that will give them digital control. And you can see the full interview on the still free platform Rumble. This is the interview Whitney Webb, Inflation Reduction and Green Banking with Catherine Austin Fries from August 26, 2022. She also says that the energy will be top down, and then you will place sensors and chips on everything that moves in the world. She explained you can move all people into a digital concentration camp, empty their bank account at any time, tell them what they can and they can spend money on, and if you will have full control. If your government approves a CBDC, every doctor you visit, every meal you eat, every trip you take, every purchase you make, and every dollar you own will be tracked in real time by your government for the rest of your life. So the CBDC are the next frontier of the fight for freedom, and this is a conversation that needs to be going on right now, because central control digital currencies are coming down the pipeline. This will be weaponizing money against humanity and carry the greatest human rights violation we have ever seen in human history. This is Catherine Austin Fries, and she continues.
Why is it so important we come out of the system, that Mr. Global is not tracking us? Why? Because where is this leading?
When you have a 100%, what they're shooting for is an all digital system. And if you have a 100% digital system, that can be controlled centrally. And not only can your money be limited to different, geographical areas or spatial areas, but it can also be limited to, sort of what you can buy, when you can buy it. And it can literally tax you without your permission. You can install a system of taxation without representation. But ultimately, Polly, you can implement complete control, because let's say I want to mandate a vaccine. you can't your financial transaction ability can be turned off, your access to your financial assets can be denied or stopped if you don't do what you're told.
Hmm.
Wow. Mark.
This is this is yeah. It's opening a gate to tyranny. Opening a gate to tyranny. You know, I
So,
was I was
yeah.
watching yesterday a debate in the Parliament of Jamaica, and the Minister of Finance was promoting CBDCs, and he was saying, you know, Bitcoin has no, it's not tied to any, it's not tied to any authority, but this
Mm,
will be, you know, this will be certified by the Bank of Jamaica. And it was presenting this as if it, you know, that's going to bring more security to your money. No, I mean, at any time, you actually you have no control over your finances. Once you get into these accounts, once one opens one of these accounts of the central bank digital currency, you lose control over your money, your own money. They can tell you what you can buy, what you cannot buy, when you can buy it, if you will buy it or not.
right. So Mark, from a Christian perspective, is freedom to operate a natural resource? Is this something we have to apply for? Is this something we buy? Is this something that governments and central banks are actually giving away to the masses and to the population? From a Christian perspective, freedom, where does it come from? And is this freedom linked to the very human identity? Can you
Exactly.
call yourself a human being without freedom?
It's exactly so. It's fundamental to human dignity. You know, uh, as a famous saying goes, all men are created equal and are endowed not by the government, not by the state, but are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are the right to life, to liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Um, these are fundamental liberties that a system like this is diametrically opposed to. It's a war. It's warfare on freedom,
Mm,
warfare on against the conscience, warfare against freedom of movement. Every type of freedom can be controlled or can be limited or denied through a system like this. It's it's bringing us. It's a system designed to bring humanity into abject tyranny, into abject slavery. Hmm.
well,
I really hope that, you know, I really hope that there people can awaken to the danger of what's happening. You know, because people are coming with nice words. We have the story of the Pied Piper. You know, he's playing the pipe, and taking all the children to their deaths. Well, that's what's happening right now. The Pied Piper is playing a tune to the death of liberty.
and again, we need to realize this. We need to wake up. We need to wake up as many people as possible. And Mark, I'm sure you've heard about false flag operations. Uh,
Oh yes.
that's another conversation. And there is also an increasing call from government and institution like World Economic Forum and other institution to clamp down on the internet, and also the risk of cyber attacks, which could give the perfect excuse to implement a digital ID system that we will be told is designed to protect us from hackers, scammers, and scams, which of course it's a reasonable excuse, but which we believe and many other people is really designed to take away the sovereignty and agency of individual freedom. Again,
Yes.
think about this scenario: the convenience of having, again, all your personal information verified, gathered in one place. We already have this in many countries in Europe, in Scandinavia. Your passport, driver license, your medical records, your tax information, welfare number. Think about the convenience of going to a place that requires you to show proof of having undergone certain medical treatments before allowing access. This has already happened, for the last 2 years. This information will be available immediately through this digital ID system. Now imagine that your government has denied you access to your digital ID and you will be locked for a certain period of time. This is going to be your punishment. Going places, accessing venues will be impossible for a certain period of time. So, what would you do, and why would the government do that? Well, it is going to be linked to your social credit score. And this doesn't come out of a 1984 nightmare scenario. It's actually happening right now in China and in an increasing number of countries. China social credit system. It's explained very well on this website, nhgglobalpartners.com, where the explanation is that the Chinese credit system, it's a broad, it says here, regulatory framework intending to report on the trustworthiness of individuals, corporations, and governmental entities across China. So, Mark, the government here has placed itself in a position, it seems like they're going to decide again what is truth and what is not true, what is good and what is evil. And based on that, based on their definition, you're going to be reported on through this digital ID system, right? And the CBDC is part of this. And if your behavior is not according to this social credit system, to this definition, you will more or less be locked out of society. Now, as a Christian, Mark, how would you be able to even function in a society like this?
It sounds to me like what the Bible speaks of in Revelation. You know, the economic embargo of Revelation chapter 13, the beast system. That's what it sounds like. And in the beast system, there is no place for the Christian. The beast system exalts man. That's why he has a number, a special number, 666, 3 sixes. 6 is a number of a man. 6 is a number of a man, and it's pointing to something. We can talk a little bit more on its significance before we close this program. But that's what it sounds to me like. It's a play. It's setting up a system to squeeze certain types of characters out. It's a system being geared to rewarding those, the more submission, the more conformity. It's a system geared for the rewarding of conformists and for the crushing of nonconformists characters. That's where we're heading. The governments, the powers that be, are actually telling us, if you think that life is about liberty and freedom of choice, then you need to understand that your days are numbered.
Hmm.
You have to, you will have to submit. We will push you and bend you and squeeze you into absolute submission, or you will have nowhere to go. You will not be a part of the system. You so already we are realizing.
Hmm.
I mean, a Christian should begin to think right now. Um, am I going to um, if this system will have no place for nonconformists, um, and place for free thinking and for
Hmm.
free thinkers and people who have convictions that they base their life's decisions and actions on. If the system, this financial system, will have no tolerance for that, should I be a part of it? Or is this move, is this implementation calling me to think whether or not I have to think about the decisions that I need to make? Am I going to join it and then afterwards realize that, okay, I am now enslaved, I'm now constrained by these powers, or am I seeing where it's going, and based on where I see it's going, is it telling me something? Is it telling me that, oh, wait, maybe this is not for me? Maybe I
Yeah.
shouldn't be a part. You know, we have to evaluate where this is going and whether we want to be taken where it's headed.
Because again, there is no neutral ground. You can either choose one
No,
system or the other, and it's quite
exactly.
interesting that
And
the Bible.
Michael,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Michael, when we see this type of high level tyranny, the thing that moves, um, motivate tyrants is an absolute obsession with control. Control at the
Yeah, good
level
point. Yeah.
that is not, that even God Himself does not impose, because
Hmm.
the Creator Himself has given us liberty. What does that mean? It means that He Himself has put limits where your will is concerned. He said, okay, um, I have given you that ability to choose for yourself, even if your choice disagrees with
Hmm.
my will. I still give you the ability. You will have to face the consequences, of course, but when but God respects liberty to such an extent that even knowing ahead of time that liberty would bring certain risks to the security of the universe, certain risks to the security of his creatures, he still went ahead to preserve that. It's an element that God absolutely respects. In fact, it's the most expensive element
Hmm.
in the universe. And yet he's willing to preserve it at great cost to himself. Because of liberty of choice, sin entered this world. And the only way to save sinners from the
Yeah.
consequences of their choice, or from the penalty of their choice, is for God to undertake uh, a plan for their salvation. And this plan of salvation
Yeah.
costs him, is costly to him, yet he chose it. So
Hmm.
so so when we have this push for control, human beings trying to gain control at such a level where the they would crush the individual will or the individual conscience, they're going beyond what God Himself is disposed, where God Himself is disposed to go. It's absolute blasphemy. It's
Yeah.
blasphemy in its essence.
it's a very important topic that we want to point our viewers, and at the end of this video and also in the comment field you will find links to some of these studies if you're interested, because it's not enough to point to the evil. There is a solution, but what kind of solution are you going to embrace? What solution are you going to embrace? Our viewers, the option, you still have a choice. you know we are going and entering an era in this world history where everybody except the people that are considering themselves the elites, everybody that will fail to follow the rules, they will quickly discover that they have a low credit score, which limits their travel, their ability to buy food, and will and can result in serving time in jail. It's already happening in China. Under a social credit system, if you drive an electric car, if you consume plant based meat, and by the way, I didn't have time to take this into our presentation. Just yesterday, the FDA approved and gave the license to the first American company to put on the market actually not plant-based meat but lab-grown meat. That's quite interesting. I wonder how many people are going to embrace that. However, this is going to be part of this system, and you're going to have to praise the government on social media, because if you do that, you will realize that, which is already happening, you will quickly rise to the top of the social credit level. If you do the opposite, the sanctions that will be placed upon you will make you think twice next time about what you're going to say, and it's going to have a huge impact on your behavior, right? Your carbon footprint will be tracked every single moment of your life. Governments and corporations have taken upon themselves to impose the global climate change agenda, as we discussed in the previous edition of The Watchman, on their own citizens and customers. Australian Central Bank announces the first carbon tracking feature for their customers. This is the Commonwealth Bank of Australia creating this service that allows customers to track their carbon footprint in their retail purchases and credit to offset the issues created by their purchase. So we have moved it to the next level now. We're not just talking about a major fallacy where it comes to the carbon emission, as being this great pollutant. Now we have moved to the next level. You're going to be monitored, you and I. So
Yes,
this
exactly.
data
Because if
capacity, yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, just you can go ahead and comment.
Yes, because if they're giving you the ability to measure your own carbon footprint with the interconnectivity of the internet and the Internet of Things, um, and the coming Internet of Bodies, there will be no escape. Once the information is accessible to you through the internet, it's accessible to the powers that be and those that want to control you. So definitely, they will know your carbon footprint. And the thing interesting thing is where this might go. I mean, it's control, and it's opening a door for control at levels that we have not seen before, because maybe eventually your own personal carbon emissions,
Yeah,
breathing,
yeah,
may eventually be may prove to be a luxury. Wow.
yeah,
Or taxable. Maybe might be taxable. Our own respiration, intake of oxygen and expulsion of carbon dioxide basic to life itself, then this becomes a taxable entity. This is very frightening, um, a very frightening thought.
which is already a proposition, and we're going to hear from the central bankers themselves. But first, let's hear what uh, the Bank of International Settlements, the leader at this point of the Bank of International Settlements, has to say about CBDC, central bank digital
Our
currencies.
analysis on CBDC, in particular for the use of the general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash, and there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
You know, Michael, it's becoming clearer and clearer to me that the CBDC is actually the implementation of the financial or economic financial system for the imposition of the mark of the beast. There can be no enforcement of the mark of the beast without a system of economic control. If there's no system of economic control, then there cannot be embargoes. And normally, when we talk about embargoes, we look at them on the national level. But the mark of the beast system, the prophecy of Revelation 13 speaks about an economic embargo at the level of the individual citizen, and a system that is able to dictate to the individual citizen whether he or she will be privileged to buy or sell. So we're looking right now at the creating of a system to fulfill one of the greatest prophecies, one of the most serious prophecies, demarcation that demarks or that defines our place in history, defines whether or not we're actually where we are in the history of humanity. That clearly shows us that we are right down to the very end of time, where this contest between the beast power and the power of the lamb will collide and will call for decisions on the part of citizens to state their loyalty, whether they would submit themselves to the power, to the authority of the Lamb of God, the government of heaven, or whether we are going to submit ourselves to earthly governments, to the authority imposed by men. So it's very clear. It's really eye-opening what is happening right now. We can be sure that the system for the imposition of the mark of the beast is being implemented through CBDC.
So, Mark, we need to point our viewers, whoever you are, whatever background you have, either you have a religious background or a Christian background, that this is not about a phase that the world is entering into a technocratic dictatorship, totalitarian phase. And maybe and hopefully we can fight back. And we're not here to, take your hopes away. We have to realize that the Bible has been pointing to this exact position of the world history, the status of the world history. Right now, the Bible has been pointing, this is what I understand, Mark, you're saying, to the exact system that is being set in place right now. So we need to realize that this is not just about politics, this is not about control, this is not just about financing and money. and controlling your life, this has a tremendous spiritual level and perspective. And we need to bring people to
That,
this awareness. We need to bring everybody on board to this awareness that this is going to end. And it's not going to end like a coincidence, or maybe if there is a certain number of people which are going to wake up to the tyranny and we're going to fight back one way or another. This is not how the Bible predicted that this system is going to end. Now we see, you and I, and maybe probably a lot of other Christians, they do see the mark of the beast in the system. And we're not here to say that this is the mark of the beast. That's a topic for another watchman, and we can point our viewers to other studies about the mark of the beast. But definitely we can agree upon with probably every single Christian that is awake and following the signs of the times that this is the platform of the mark of the beast. And the spiritual consequence that we need to take into consideration is much more important and essential than the physical consequences of being afraid of whatever digital system, whatever social credit score which is going to be implemented. Let's listen. One of the last statements we're going to take here, it's coming from an IMF meeting. And here we have, I believe it was the communist parties, the central bank, communist China, making a statement, making a proposition about what CBDC should be used for and how the CBDC actually should be linked to the social credit system to control what people cannot or can do according to
Bo,
them.
just a quick question. When you look out at what's happening so far in this sphere, do you see any ways in which the transaction data is so helpful are being used now or could be used or should be put into a plan? Just any specific example.
Well, I can give you one example in China because I personally experienced it, right? Those transaction data can be utilized by service providers in credit underwriting, in the sense that, those transaction data in terms of how many coffee I drink every day, where I buy coffee, do I use Uber every day, and what kind of working hours I have. Those non-traditional data can be very useful for financial service providers to give me a credit score. And based on that credit score, the financial service provider give me a credit line without any face-to-face due diligence. That's a big saving because traditionally, banks, they need to do due diligence. They need to meet with us face-to-face. They need to even visit my home if they want to give me a home equity loan, right? So there's a lot of cost associated with traditional credit underwriting. But the non-traditional credit underwriting is based on data. And there is no need for face-to-face meeting. And it's much faster and much cheaper. And that's a way to create value. And we see a lot of that already in China because we have very good mobile payment system in China. And those service providers, they are providing a lot of additional financial service in addition to payment. And that can be very profitable. And that's the value we are talking about to make it attractive to private sector players to join this ecosystem.
Right. It's
hey, Michael,
getting
you
more.
can see he's so with that system. Of course, it's to the advantage of the bankers. It makes their job easier. But we can see that a system like that is going to create robots out of people. It's gonna put so much pressure on people that they won't even be able to think anymore after a while. Anybody that subjects themselves to this, they're gonna lose their human dignity.
Well, Mark, we're going back to slavery, and this time it's not going to be like, oh, the majority is going to be black people. No, everybody is going to be in this. This is an inevitable takeover by the banking system,
And
central banking system. Yeah,
and what you just said about us going back to slavery, that also is prophetic. Uh, Later on, when we take a look at, this verse in Revelation 13, we're going to see that the future, according to biblical prophecy, tells us clearly that there will be slaves down in the end of time.
right. Well, Mark, we could go on for hours. We have different statements from these people, but I believe that we have shown enough statements, and anyone can do, you can do your own research. I would definitely recommend, if you want to do some factual research of what's going on. This is a major, great website. It's called off Guardian .org. And here we have a report from the famous James Corbett. He's doing these weekly reports this week in the new normal, coming from October this year, where he's making a very good detailed explanation on the CBDC. And by the way, the well-known SWIFT system has already starting the process of implementing CBDC system. So if you don't know what SWIFT is, it's the International System of Money Transfer. This is the system that has been used to block Iran and now Russia and many other countries. The system will be used to mainly have the capacity to block every single international transaction of any countries that doesn't follow the rules. So now at the end of this conversation, as we already pointed our viewers, Mark, we need to take this to a next level. We can't just, sit in a corner. We can't just look with fear at what's happening in the world. We can't go into kind of a suicidal mode. But we need to ask these questions. We need to ask ourselves, as a human being, is my life worth living in a coming environment where freedom is permanently extinguished? Is my life worth living without freedom? As you mentioned before, this was one of the statements made by the founding fathers of United States. Because we are living in a world now, many people have started to realize, where self-appointed elites have invested hugely over at least 50 years to get to the point where we are right now and where we're going to be, where most people believe that we are destroying climate, that there are too many people on the planet. And we have already seen that one of the crucial tools that these people are going to use is to impose absolute control through a cashless digital society. So it's very important, and it's not just important. I believe, and we believe, it's essential for us people still in some amount of freedom to understand that our not just current online banking system is no way equivalent to the central banking digital currency. And we might say we can escape this by going into crypto and supporting a crypto market. But there is, the spiritual level. Let's take that to the spiritual level at the end of this program, because we believe, as we already mentioned, that this has a catastrophic impact on humanity. Mark, there's
Yes,
some, yeah,
even when we think of cryptocurrency, the way, as we look at the trend in the era of finance, we can tell that these currencies are their days are numbered. These currencies are not going to be tolerated uh, when this CBDC goes global. It's just a matter of time before they will begin to make them an entity outlawed, illegal. Um, so even that itself cannot be. Yes, it's some temporary relief. They offer some temporary relief, but we have to look beyond that. We have to understand that in the scriptures speaks of the prince of the power of the air, the prince of darkness, the prince of this world. Satan is behind this, and he wants to assert his power over the inhabitants of the world. And just, the prince of the power of the air, he met Jesus, the real prince of life. He met him, and he said to him, one of the temptations that he presented to him, the third temptation was, he showed him all the kingdoms of the world and all the glories of this world. And he said, all these things belong to me because it is given to me. And I can give it to whomever I will. Worship me, and I will give it to you. Yeah. This is where it's going. It's going to worship. And that's why the Apostle Paul says the love of money is the root of all evil. If we put money and comfort and whatever money, the power that money brings as the primordial value or the chief value in our lives, then we are on a dangerous path. There are people, we have to make a choice. What is of greatest value in my life? Is it reflecting the purposes for which God created human beings, for us to reflect his glory, for us to be like him in thought, like him in our affections, like him in our vision? Or is it just the pursuit of my own satisfaction, the pursuit of my own comforts, the pursuit of my own ambitions? If that is the chief driving force in one's life, then for sure, if the pursuit of ambitions and comfort, personal comfort, is the main driving force in one's life, then one can be bought, one can be sold. There is a price there, because we live in a system, we live in a society, and there are forces or factors that will affect the our success, that have power to affect our success, or the achievement of those ambitions. If a system like this is implemented, then new factors are being brought into play that perhaps before we would not have considered as being deterrents to the achievement of our goals or our ambitions. Now, any simple little thing it could be your diet, it could be how you use your gift of speech. And before we thought that we were in an environment where freedom of speech was a guaranteed right and was a protected right. But now we're finding that with this system and the implementation of this system, the conditions and the factors are changing. And simple things that we would once, before this crisis, before the COVID crisis, would have thought was just a normal thing. Now we're discovering, wow, you can be so easily censored. And now imagine not only, the censorship of having your channel being
Banned.
being tagged or being muzzled, but now not being able, for something that you said that was not approved by the powers that be, now you're not able to buy yourself, or now you're not able to feed your family. That's very serious. So we have to look at our value system. Is, as you said, the question is life under a system like that, where liberty is not guaranteed? Is life worth living? Uh, you know, it depends on who the question is addressed to.
And
It depends on
depends
what
option.
are the essential values in the heart of that person hearing the question. And that's why I would say to the audience listening, what moves you? What is your price? What does life mean to you? Does life still have meaning in living in abject slavery? Like that. As some of the great heroes in the past saw life, they saw liberty as being one of the most important commodities to fight for. And not only to fight for, if victory in the fight was guaranteed, but to fight for it at any cost, even in the face of death itself. So many of them, by their actions, cried, "Give me liberty, or give me death." There are people for whom entry into this type of system is not an option, because there is absolutely no guarantee of freedom. And where there is no freedom, then there can be no guarantee of justice. There can be no guarantee of the pursuit of truth, and the satisfaction of the conscience, to the ability of the conscience to be settled, or with a satisfaction that yes, what I'm experiencing there is this is really reality. Because if there's no room for the expression, for the freedom of expression, there can be no room for the pursuit of truth and the pursuit of pursuit of justice and liberty. All these three are interconnected. They're intimately connected. And a society that will crush the pursuit of truth, that will crush the pursuit of that will crush freedom of expression, is a society that has no qualms at crushing justice. There can be no justice in such a society. So, as for me, and I believe for those that believe that there is a creator and that he is the one who has the true power, not these folks, unelected individuals and unelected entities trying to force their ideology on the world and trying to coerce the consciences of men. They're not the ones who we really have to fear. You know, Jesus Christ said, "Fear not him that is able to kill the body, but cannot touch the soul, but rather fear him that is able to cast both body and soul into hellfire." There is a true potentate. There is a true sovereign, and he's your creator. He's our creator. He's the one that we must give our fear. He's the one that must rule, because where the fear of God, in a heart where the fear of God is present, all other fear is cast out. In the heart where the fear of man is present, there is no room for the fear of God. We have to choose what is going to intimidate, what is going to motivate us. Is it the sayings of man, or is it the authority of God declared in his own word, in his own law? where will we put our submission? If I'm truly submitted to God and a system is implemented to push me away from that submission, then, well, I have to make a decision. Who am I going to listen to? Who am I going to put as the authority over my life? God or man and his systems? And in the context of Bible prophecy, this is very important because there is a warning in Revelation chapter 14 concerning the receiving of the mark of the beast. And as we see right now being pushed a system that is able to support the implementation of the mark of the beast, we have to consider carefully, because in Revelation 14, verse 9 to 11, there's a warning, and one of the most solemn warnings in the scriptures. It says, "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest, day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name." This is a very serious position to be in. So if we think that, well, it's hard to resist the system, how am I going to live? There are consequences on either side. If we fear men and the implementation of their tyrannical system, and we allow them to pressure us, maybe we will have be able to retain certain commodities for a while, because you're giving in to an evil power. You're giving in to a tyrannical power. And there is no safety in submission to tyranny. There is no safety in tyranny.
From Robert Kennedy, we cannot comply ourselves out of tyranny.
Exactly. I love that. I think it's more better said that way. We cannot comply ourselves out of tyranny, friend. So if we give in because of fear and intimidation, you still have fear. You will still have something to fear. And this is what the Bible is saying. God is saying, if fear is what motivates you, then think about what you really need to fear. You really need to be afraid of receiving the mark of the beast. You really need to be afraid of cooperating with the system that is being implemented to enforce the mark of the beast. If fear is your great motivation, then think about this fear, because there's an overarching fear, not just to fall in the disapproval of a totalitarian state or a totalitarian global system, but to fall under the disapproval of the Creator himself, the one who has the power to bring a universe into being by just a word, or just by the exercise of his will. Take the breath from us.
So, Mark,
that's something to fear.
Fear, it is the element of control right now. This is what is being used by the powers to be to control population. Giving into fear basically is giving up your liberty, giving up your freedom, because you will and I will be controlled by the powers to be. And just to sum up this wonderful resume which you did at the end of this conversation, we need to point our viewers to that this system is not just about financial control. We have pointed out a very important prophetic aspect coming from the Bible, that this system will raised to the next last level to be able to control who you and I are going to worship. And this
Exactly.
is the most essential part that we really need to understand. So we might go into crypto, nothing wrong about going and dealing with crypto. We might go on country living. It's something we would recommend, to go on country living, to be able to keep yourself afloat for the longest time possible. But there will be a worldwide international enforcement of a worship system, which most likely will be implemented through this system, which is already being in place. We are seeing the groundworking, we are seeing the framework being set in place right now around the world. Even European Union says it can have a digital ID wallet by 24, regardless of challenges. Mark, you already mentioned what the Bible is telling us, and we're not going to have the conversation now about what the mark of the beast is. But verse 16 at the end of this quotation, no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So what we want to point our viewers to go beyond the veil of evil, which is already visible in this system, of controlling every movement, every transaction, everything you do, which is going to have an impact on your behavior. We go to the last bastion of control coming from this evil entity, which is controlling who you're going to worship. And this is where you and I,
Yes,
Mark,
Michael.
and every single living person has to make a decision. There is no other way, there is no other option. Either you go one way or you go the other way. So we'd really love to be in contact with you, whoever you are out there. If you want to know more about the mark of the beast, if you want to know more about what to do about this coming mark of the beast system, which we already see being implemented worldwide through this digital central banking digital currency system and digital ID, you're more than welcome to contact us. Pastor Mark has several presentations, seminars, and studies on this topic. We need to ask you to consider this on a spiritual level, not just a financial or physical level.
Yes, Michael. If you wouldn't mind to put the slide back up with based on who you worship, based on one's willingness to worship or to submit to a system of worship to the beast, then one will be able to buy or sell. But if one refuses that system, there will be no that privilege will be taken. Oh, wait, not the liberty, but it will be now assumed as privilege. Liberty becomes a privilege, not inalienable right. Under this tyrannical system, liberty is classified as a privilege. But in verse 16, he says, he causes all, both small and great, enslaved, free and enslaved, to worship. Huh? To worship, no, that and causes all free and bond, that to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. This is a very serious, because in the next verse he says, here's wisdom, let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, because it's the number of a man and his number is 666. This number points to humanity, exalting itself in the place of God. There's 6 is the number of man, or it's the number of humanity. The fact that you have 3 sixes there, 3 in numerology is perfection, is a perfect number, but the perfect divine perfection. So when you have 3 sixes there, it's pointing to the fact that man is exalting himself in the place of God. He's putting
And
himself in a place of authority that pertains only to God. The beast system is an affront to God's authority and God's glory, God's dignity, to be believed, to be trusted, to be confided in, and to be submitted to. Man is now putting himself in that place and is saying, listen, if you want to live, if you want to enjoy your life, if you want to have privileges, you must obey my system or starve or be imprisoned or die. And we who love God, if we love God, we have a responsibility to say, no, it cannot be like this. Daniel was in that position in his time. Nebuchadnezzar appointed for all the captives to eat at his table. He appointed for them to eat the food that he had appointed. The word there in the Hebrew is manna, and it means that he was actually showing that without his authority, without his blessing and favor, they could not enjoy the privileges. So he was usurping the place of God. And that was one of the reasons why Daniel decided that he would not contaminate himself with the king's meat. Yes, it was offered to idols. Yes, there were foods there that were prohibited by God's law. But beyond all of that was Nebuchadnezzar's proud assertion or proud affirmation that by my dictates, you slaves shall live. And Daniel stood in defiance of that, because to submit himself to such a dictate would be to make himself an enemy of God. The time has come where we need to understand that in the last days, the world is going to be polarized into 2 groups. Those who serve the true and living God, our Creator and our Redeemer, and those who subject themselves to a usurping system that wants to take God's honor unto itself. If we love God, we have to say no to such a system. And we have to do what we can to bring men back to an understanding of why we need to be faithful to the one who gives us breath, who gives us a mind to think, to act, and why he deserves our service. Listen, we should ask ourselves, does this system that is trying to impose its dictates on us, does it deserve our respect and absolute loyalty, so that we should submit ourselves to its absolute dictates? Why should we?
there is an answer in the Bible to this why, Mark. And very essential points you're making here. Thank you for this. And would like to point our viewers again that this system has been predicted in the Bible. There has been predicted also how the system is going to end. Maybe we don't find the exact specific information. Yes, the Bible doesn't say that it's going to be through a digital currency, but the Bible doesn't need to tell us, because these are just detail. This system could have been implemented through other technologies, through other means. What is important is how this is going to end. And how this is going to end for you and I, it's what decision you are taking right now. You know, the last verse we're going to have, it comes also from Revelation 13, verse 8. All that dwell upon the earth will worship the beast, him whose name are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So the Bible is very clear. The Bible has predicted this system, the system of total control. It's gonna happen. It it's important that we wake as many people as possible up, and it's also essential that we're telling people it's about worship at the end of the line. It's not just about your money and your financing system, it's about worship.
In, in that verse, we see the authority that the Lamb has because he has are written in his book. His kingdom is not of this world, he said. My kingdom is not of this world. So what is happening and what the scriptures predict will happen at the end of time is that there will become a clear demarcation between the citizens of the kingdom of light, the citizens of the kingdom of God, and the citizens of the kingdom of the prince of darkness, and whose contentment is to dwell just in a system where there is no God and there is no place for the Creator. Well, there it is. The Bible tells us that the vast majority of the world are going to choose the system of darkness, the system that tries to exile God from itself. That's the choice that practically all the world will take, except for some that are different. And the Bible tells us who they are. Those whose names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. I think that is the great question, because even if we say, well, I'm not going to take this, I'm not going to give in to the system, or I will go along for now, but I'm not going to take the mark of the beast. The Bible tells us that no man will have the power to resist the beast except that his name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, except that our affections are intimately tied in to the heart of God. We will not have the strength necessary to resist this power, because it will impose hunger, it will impose torture, weariness. We will need a faith that will be able to support, a patient faith that will be able to support the consequences that the system will put upon those who refuse submission to its dictates. And that will include hunger, that will include torture, that will include imprisonment, that will include exile. But for those who are motivated by something beyond bodily comforts and bodily security, that's a small price to pay for the honor of their King. May God give us and move our hearts to such desire for the honor and exaltation of our King, so that we can be successful in resisting. And may we, each one of us, ask the question, is my name written in the Lamb's Book of Life? Because the Lamb is going to come one day in power and glory. And he says that they which are with him are called and chosen and faithful.
Thank you, Mark. And let's make sure that everyone's name is written in this book of life. So thank you everyone for watching this program. We'll see you next time in our next edition, where we're going to uncover world events which are connected also to the spiritual perspective. And remember, everything we'll say it's about you, it's about your life, it's about your future, it's about your eternal future, because only the truth will make you free. Thank you, and thank you, Mark.
Amen.